Hey class, welcome back to another video. Today we're diving into feminist literary theory, and we'll apply what we learned to the famous play Macbeth by William Shakespeare. Before we get into the play, we first need to understand where feminist theory comes from and why it matters when reading literature. A brief history of feminism. The feminist movement started with what's called the First Wave in the late 1700s. Around the time of the Declaration of Independence was signed in the US, people began asking serious questions about equality, not just for men, but for women too. In 1792, a writer named Mary Wollstonecraft published a powerful book called A Vindication of the Rights of Woman. She argued that women weren't naturally less intelligent than men. They just didn't have the access to education. Her work helped launch feminism by calling for equal rights and encouraging women to be strong, independent thinkers. The second wave of feminism took off between the 1950s and 1970s. This was when women started fighting for rights at work and at home, especially after World War II. Finally, the third wave, beginning in the 1990s, focused on making feminism more inclusive, welcoming women of different races, cultures, and identities. Feminism has kept growing ever since. Alright, so what exactly is feminist literary theory? Well, it's a way of reading and analyzing stories that focuses on the role of women and how gender affects the writing and meaning of a certain text. Feminist critics believe that since literature has mostly been written by men, it often reflects a male-dominated or patriarchal society. A big part of feminist theory is looking at oppression. This means how women are treated unfairly in society and in books. This can happen in three ways. First, we have marginalization, which is pushing women to the side or giving them unimportant roles. Next, we have subordination, which is treating women as lower or less important than men. And next, we have objectification, which is treating women like objects instead of real people with thoughts and feelings. If you notice female characters being pushed aside, treated as less important, or only described by their looks, those are signs of how gender roles are working in the story. A feminist literary reading doesn't just point these things out, but it asks why they happen, what they say about society at the time, and how the text might reflect or challenge those ideas. So when we spot these patterns, we use feminist theory to better understand how women are represented and what that reveals about the world of the story and our society. Okay, now how do we apply this theory when reading a book or play? Step 1. Imagine reading the story as a woman. Even if you are female, this can be tricky because we've often been taught to ignore gender. Next, ask yourself a few questions. What roles do women play? Are they being oppressed, marginalized, or objectified? Are there stereotypes or sexist ideas? How do men treat the woman, and how do women see themselves? Does the author seem to have a clear attitude toward women? And lastly, what was life like for women when the story was written? Additionally, feminist critics also look for symbolism. In literature, objects like swords, pens, or towers often represent masculinity, while bowls or cups represent femininity. Weird, I know, but it's something to watch for. Okay, now that we understand the theory, let's apply it to Macbeth. First, we have to list all the women in the play. First, we have Lady Macbeth, Lady Macduff, the Gentlewoman, the Three Witches, and Hecate. Right away, we notice that there are very few women in the play compared to the number of men. That's our first clue that women are marginalized. Additionally, the author Shakespeare was a man writing in a male-dominated time period, a patriarchy. So it's not surprising that the women don't get much focus. Okay, let's take a closer look at Lady Macbeth. At the beginning of the play, she seems very powerful. She pushes Macbeth to kill King Duncan and is often blamed for the murder. But as feminist critics, we should say that this is unfair. Macbeth did the crime, yet Lady Macbeth gets called evil. This is a common example of how women are subordinated and treated as the villain, while the man's role is downplayed. Later in the play, Lady Macbeth loses control, becomes sick with guilt, and eventually dies by suicide. This shows that her power was temporary and only existed through her husband. Once Macbeth becomes king, she fades into the background, and this highlights how women in the play depend on men for their importance, and once they're no longer useful, they're pushed aside. Lady Macduff is another important example. She's completely innocent, but still gets murdered, showing how women are seen as disposable. And let's not forget the three witches. They're all women, and they're portrayed as dark, scary, and manipulative. This plays into the stereotype that powerful or mysterious women are dangerous and evil. There's even a moment where Banquo says, quote, "You should be woman, and yet your beards forbid me to interpret that you are so." And this is found in Act 1, Scene 3. This line suggests that the witches are unsettling because they don't fit traditional ideas of how women should look or act. From a feminist perspective, this shows how women who step outside gender norms, like being too powerful, too bold, or too strange, are treated as unnatural or threatening. Alright, so what does all of this tell us? Well, Macbeth reflects a world where women are ignored, punished, or used only to support the development of male characters. A feminist reading helps us recognize these patterns and question the gender dynamics in literature. If we were to turn this into a formal essay, a strong thesis might be the following. In Shakespeare's Macbeth, women are marginalized, objectified, and punished for challenging gender roles, revealing how the play reflects the limitations placed on women in both literature and society. While I won't walk you through writing a full essay in this video, you now have the tools to create one. Using the points we discussed about Lady Macbeth, Lady Macduff, and the Three Witches, you can build strong, thoughtful arguments from a feminist perspective. It's that easy. Thanks for watching. Today we explored the roots of feminist theory and what it looks like in literature and how it shows up in Macbeth. And remember, literary theories like feminism don't just help us understand literature, they help us understand the world around us too. If you like this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and maybe look at your next book through a feminist lens.